ora and welcome to the Tourism Chat Show. I'm Michelle and I am so glad that you've joined us again to tune into another episode. Today we have another exciting episode lined up. And I say that every week, but hey, it's true. My guest is Will Cannon. He's an Experience Supervisor at Weta Unleashed and the 2024 winner of the Young Tourism Export Council Rising Star Award. So Will is here to share his insights on the incredible potential of Gen Z in tourism, how businesses can attract them as visitors, and why harnessing their unique energy, creativity, and perspectives can take your business to the next level. And trust me, this is an episode you don't want to miss. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the Tourism Chat Show on your favourite podcast app, leave us a glowing 5-star review, and share this episode with your mates. Your support helps us grow and continue bringing you amazing content every week. And hey, if you'd like to support the podcast and help keep it ad-free for the industry, you can now buy me a coffee. The details are in the episode notes. Every little bit helps us keep this show running and free of charge for the tourism community. Okay, so let's get into it. Here's my chat with Will. Ka kite. Kia ora, Will, and welcome to the show.
Kia ora, Michelle. Thank you very much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm very excited about our chat because obviously I heard you talk at the New Zealand Tourism Summit a couple of weeks ago, and what you said was really interesting, and you could have gone on, I'm sure, a lot longer than you did. But I thought we'd do that on the podcast and see how we go today.
Oh, wicked, yeah.
Firstly, congratulations on winning the Young Tourism Export Council Rising Star Award this year. Can you share a little bit with the audience about what this recognition means to you and how it's impacting your journey in the tourism industry?
Yeah, of course, and thank you. This award came about, it popped up, and I thought, oh wow, that'd be amazing to go for. Didn't really think I'd have the qualifications, or I suppose the record to go for it, but my leaders at Unleashed sort of gave me a nudge, and I sent in the application and didn't expect anything of it. And then when I got asked in for an interview, I celebrated that like a win. I thought, man, that's never going to get any better than that, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then got asked to go down to the summit, which was amazing. And then when it came up, we sat down on the list. There was only my name under it, so that was when the realization kicked in. It was like, oh heck, that's amazing. And from that opportunity, multiple other opportunities have just opened up for me. Lots of people asking to hear my opinion on things and invite me to talk. And even you inviting me onto this podcast has come from that. Yeah. And it's the main thing that's come from it is the connections with other people in tourism. That's been the best thing, hearing their side to tourism, what they do. So I'm still very new to the industry. I haven't even been in it for 3 years.
Wow.
So to learn, it's just given me a lot of learnings really and opportunities to hear about people's stories in tourism, which has been a lot of fun actually.
Yeah, and I guess the stories, and that's what a lot about what this podcast is about, but everybody's story is a little bit different, and it's amazing how many different experiences you can have in the tourism industry, isn't it? It's just the opportunities are vast.
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing about tourism that people don't realize is it's not just working in a hotel or being a tour guide. It's this massive umbrella of opportunity, and there's so many different avenues you can go down. And because there's not many people going into it as well, that the industry is screaming for new people to come in. So there's just a wealth of opportunity. And it's untapped as well, I feel like. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So what initially sparked your interest in the tourism industry, and what has kept you passionate about it, especially with such a unique role at Weta?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've got the cliche story of sort of falling into tourism sort of by accident. I was originally studying to be a PT while I was working as labouring on boat building.
Okay.
And this job opportunity popped up on Trade Me, and I saw a Weta workshop, and I'm a massive nerd, and so oh, that's amazing. I had no idea what Unleashed was.
Yeah.
So I put in a pretty half-assed CV and cover letter, and I was very fortunate, and they had someone drop out of the original hiring, so they pulled me in as as a backup. Mm-hmm. And what sparked my love for tourism and made me drop boat building and training to be a PT was the culture and just being open to this world of tourism that I had no idea was there.
Mm.
And yeah, very, very fortunate with the leaders that I've had and their encouragement and their patience. They've been very patient with me.
Yeah.
I'm very eager. And yeah, and just the sheer wealth that there could be in tourism and the fact that it can take you all around the world if you want it to,
Mm.
or yeah, it's an excellent industry and it excites me because I'm learning every day with it. I love being face to face with customers and being stuck in on the ground level too. And yeah, it's weird to say, and it's probably very cliche, but I get excited to go to work, which I've
Yeah.
never had before. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And did you start out as a supervisor when you first joined Weta Unleashed, or did you kind of come in on the ground level, or tell me about that?
Yeah, cool. I started as a casual tour guide, as a
Okay.
host,
Yeah.
just part time. I remember my first day being super overwhelmed, thinking, God, I'm in a room with actors. They all know how to deliver an experience. I've got a farming background. I can't really talk to people, but no, they grew me and I sort of got the itch and wanted to keep going. And I did a lot of sort of self-learning. And then after about 6 months, I was offered a supervisor position,
Mhm.
sort of the day-to-day runnings, and that opened up a completely different side from delivering like a world-class experience to having to run a day and thinking about all the different variables,
Mm.
all of the financials. That's when I learned about KPIs and trying to play with it and how to get the best out of it. Sounds really nerdy, but I love the data side of it because you can affect it. You really can affect it on the floor. So if you try something and it works, you see the number go up, and it's quite satisfying. And
Yeah.
being able to have that influence has then led me to be the Experience Supervisor today, which has been
Yeah.
really fun.
Awesome. And I think I mentioned to you when I first emailed you that I finally got to go to Weta Unleashed a couple of
Oh,
weeks
yeah.
ago or last week. So very excited. It's been on my list for, well, basically the 4 years, I think, that since you've been open. So
Yeah.
we were up there for a Love Topol showcase and had the opportunity to go through with the inbound operators that attended the showcase. And honestly, it was unreal. I didn't know what to expect. All I knew was, what's the security guard's name?
Oh, Jeff.
Jeff. I'd
Yeah.
met Jeff at meetings.
Oh, you did. Brilliant. Yeah,
So, of course, that's all I knew about Winter Unleashed. And I
oh,
actually didn't know what to expect. And it was mind blowing. It was amazing.
it is. I think it's definitely best if you do go to sort of go in blind because it's hard to really describe what you're going to get into and what
Yeah.
you're going to experience. But it's yeah, going in with an open mind and just enjoying it. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. But anyway, let's get back to the real reason we're here.
Yeah.
At the New Zealand Tourism Summit, you spoke about harnessing the full potential of Gen Z.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more about what that means and why you think it's so important for our industry?
Yeah, of course. So with that in harnessing Gen Z, there's a really good statistic that the TIA brought to me is that by 2025, 25% of our industry will be made up of Gen Z.
Mm,
That's huge.
mm,
That's absolutely huge. And I think there's a massive amount of misconception around Gen Z in, just the stereotypical stuff. They're snowflakes, they're woke, they're not hard workers. Um, but I think it's the way that the generational difference. I mean, I'm not Gen Z,
mm.
but I'm about 3 or 4 weeks off. I'm like one of the last
Oh,
millennials. I think they're they're quite misunderstood in the way they know themselves. I think they're so in touch with who they are and their mental health and their identity more than any other generation.
mm,
And they know how they want to learn as well. So they know their personality profile. They know if they're like a hands-on learner, visual learner. They know. I mean, I didn't have a clue about any of that until about a couple of months ago, until I did a training course.
yeah.
They know all this. So when we're working with them, or they're working for us, you very much need to keep this all front and center to get the best out of them. And it is a learning, and they do operate very differently. But different doesn't mean worse. In fact,
Mm,
the way I see, well, we have most of our, like 90% of our crew, I'd say, are Gen Z, and the way they operate and what they brought to Unleashed and what the workshop has been amazing. And we wouldn't be able to deliver the world-class products that we do without them. In fact, I
mm,
don't think we would have a lot of these world-class experiences or products without Gen Z. They're the one who worked with the leaders to create them.
mm.
So they've really helped us, and I've been very privileged. Sorry, excuse me, to work with some amazing individuals. And I think as an industry, we really need to harness them and listen to them and work with them and compromise how we work to how they work, so
Mm.
we can thrive, because I really do think we can.
Yeah, yeah, really good point there. And I think even if you go back in my day, many years ago, it was probably quite interesting because in a way we've all got different learning styles, right? But I
Yeah.
just don't think we knew that at the time. So if you
No.
think back, there's probably a lot of people who've been lost to the industry and really any industry because there hasn't been that awareness of learning styles and people have just not been able to adapt, to the, or and both ways, that's the leaders and the learners or the new staff into the way that things should be done because they've always been done that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I look at this generation and they're coming through and oh God, you only have to see the little kids and how adept they are. You hand them a phone and they know where to swipe and they know, like, they understand almost consumer behavior better than anybody who studied consumer behavior because they're consuming so much information. And yes, there's a down point potentially to that, but it's also a huge opportunity for us as employers, right?
Oh, heck yeah. I think you've absolutely nailed it. And they have been brought up with it, and it is quite scary. I've got a niece who's just turned 6 years old, and they're so much more adept with phones and even computers and than I am. And I'm thinking, oh, how did you do that? Can you show me? Can you teach me how you did that? Yeah, it all looks like wizardry. And I think, as 25% next year are going to be working, but think of how many Gen Z are going to be customers. So if we're
Mm.
not advertising on these platforms or using these platforms, then our businesses are going to go unnoticed as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So, speaking of that, what do you see as the defining characteristics of Gen Z, especially if we look at the expectations and behaviors when it comes to travel experiences?
Of course. By travel experiences, do you mean like them coming as a customer?
Mm,
Yeah. So I think everyone seems to focus on technology, which is a big part of Gen Z. But I think the main thing that I personally believe, in my opinion, is their mindset. Gen
mm,
Z are so aware, and so that they care so much about the environment, about
mm,
people's cultures. They care so much about people's identities, sexual preferences. That's their first and foremost. If you want to invite Gen Z to your business and get them thing, you need to make sure that have a sustainable business, that you're paying your, like,
mhm,
Gen Z genuinely look if you're paying your employees a living wage. If you're not,
mm.
they're going to boycott your company because they don't believe it's fair, because they're
Wow.
also those people in those positions. So
Yep.
if you're not giving your employees genuine benefits, and I don't just mean like the stereotypical pizza party. I mean like help, a support network, teachings, learnings, and like they're going to boycott your business if you don't have a sustainable environmental setup. If you're not being proactive, if you're not part of the Tiaki promise, things like this, they care so strongly about it.
Mm,
If your company's been involved with any sort of xenophobia, misogynistic way, and you've been in the press in a bad way, they're going to boycott you because they they don't want to support a business that doesn't support people being unapologetically themselves. And I mean, rightly so.
yeah.
They're very careful about how they spend their money and who they support. So you have to make sure you are, I suppose, on the right side of history, and you're looking to not just as a business to make a quick buck in the short run, but to be able to give back to a community, to give back to a people, and to give back to the environment. If you're not doing that, Gen Z aren't going to give you their money, and they're not
Mm,
going to come see your business. Yeah,
mm.
I think it's
Wow,
really important.
interesting. And if we come back to staff, because you
Mm.
mentioned that we'll have 25% of the workforce will be Gen Z very soon, what advice would you give to tourism businesses that want to attract and connect authentically with these Gen Zers and get them working in their businesses?
Absolutely. It's a really good question. And my main piece of advice would be transparency. Be completely transparent and honest. Don't hide anything.
Mhm.
If you're advertising on a website and you don't show your hourly rate or salary, no one's going to apply for that.
Mm,
We want to know straight up. We want to know hours. We want yes and no's, black and white. It's being like, is this going to happen? Yes, no. We don't want a maybe or an ifs and but. And then
mhm.
if it is a yes or it is a no, explaining the reasoning behind it,
Hmm.
because we can understand that not every job will be perfect. Not every job is going to be fun every single day. There's going
Yeah.
to be those hard days, but if you can understand the reasoning behind it and it's very transparent and your leaders are honest with you, then they respect that and they understand that. And not
Hmm.
only do they get on board with it. So if you have a really hard day at work and there's a strong reason behind it and you've been transparent and clear about it, they're like, sweet, thanks for keeping me in the know. I
Mm.
appreciate that. So yeah, just being really honest. Not, I suppose it's a fine line between being blunt and being honest. I
Yep.
think the difference between being blunt and being honest is explaining the why. I
Yep.
think being transparent and explaining the why is really going to attract Gen Z.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, look, there are some situations that I can think I've been in the past where you literally haven't been able to give the full story because there's
Mm.
so many moving parts behind it. But we had a bit of a chat last week with Anne Newman, who won the Emerging Tourism Leader Award on the show. And she said, you know, there were little things like, hey, I'm in this with you. You know, there's no talk about this at the moment, but if it happens, you know, it's going to affect me too. And those sorts of things that I thought were really worthwhile talking about because, yeah, sometimes it's easy just to pull the shutters down and go, no, too hard.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't want to talk
exactly.
about it.
Yeah, I think she's hit the point. Having that conversation, of course, there's going to be stuff that's super confidential that you can't tell people. But even just saying, I'm really sorry, I can't talk to you about this for a confidentiality reason. If it does break or I am, I'll let you know. I'll inform everyone. But at
Yeah.
the moment, I can't. Yeah, explaining that why and yeah, having those hard conversations and not pulling those shutters down, I think is great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one of the things that I've noticed is that Gen Z crew that I engage with and get to know through the industry, they seem to be, and you've touched on it, just a whole lot more confident in
Mm.
themselves and what they want than what I would say I was at the same age, which I think is a great thing. And I don't think, as an older person in the industry, I don't think we should be scared of that. I think there are probably that generational kind of, oh, who do they think they are? They sound so confident. But it's actually a really good thing because they can help you in your business, as we've talked about. So there's absolutely no doubt about that.
Yeah, yeah, completely. And I completely agree. And I don't know quite where the confidence always comes from. I know I definitely didn't have it, and I don't think I'd still do have their level of confidence sometimes,
Yeah.
but allowing them to be themselves and everyone, I think a big thing, everyone has tattoos now. Most
Yep.
people have a tattoo, and it's very much the normal now. I think I'm abnormal because I don't have a tattoo, and especially in my
Same.
group. Yeah, so I think, and there's no, yeah, I think the stereotype between tattoos are you look like you're rough, you look like a thug, or
Yeah,
it's not. It's an expression of who they are.
that's
And if
right.
you ask,
Yep.
if you ask someone to hide it, you're asking to hide who they are, and they're not gonna like that. They're gonna bite you for it. So I think, yeah, that's a small thing. Just telling them not to hide who they are is massive.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that helps because we've talked about the Gen Z audience as well. And if they're coming through kind of seeing themselves represented in
Yeah.
your business,
Yeah.
they automatically feel a little bit more welcome there as well because it's not just sustainability and environmental policy, that's all important, but if they can actually see that you're walking the talk and you've got people like them working in your businesses, that's even
Yeah.
better, right?
Yeah, completely. Because what better way to engage Gen Z than other Gen Z staff? So
Mm.
they can be there, they can have genuine interactions on the floor. They'll be much better at sort of describing the business as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. If they see other Gen Z who are being allowed to be unapologetically themselves, show their tattoos, have their pronoun badge, have a really epic, cool haircut or whatever, or
Mm.
just be them, then
Yep.
I definitely think that's going to attract other Gen Z, not just to
Yeah.
work, but you're right, as a customer. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Are there any brands or campaigns that you think are currently getting it right when it comes to Gen Z? And not necessarily tourism, but just overall?
Ah, yeah. I didn't really think about other brands outside of tourism. That's a really good one. I mean, in tourism, I think just in the Sky City precinct we do quite well. All Blacks are fantastic.
Hmm.
I think, well, very biased, but I think Weta is very good at it.
Yeah.
AJ Hackett, they're fantastic. They're
Yep.
leading the way. Hobbiton, amazing how they let their crew show and be themselves. And the way I was very fortunate and got to sit in with the Hobbiton ops crew and see how they run, and it's mind-blowingly impressive.
Yeah.
But I think other brands that sort of do well. I mean, I'm just thinking like walking myself down the local shopping centre in Auckland, like Sylvia Park. If you look at the brands that have got people going into it, like I suppose Doc Martens, I don't know why they're the first one that come to my head. If you look random, if you look at their advertisement, for example, you have people who are gender fluid, you have people who can show their tattoos, can just be them, and Doc Martens are extremely fashionable.
Yeah.
And I think why they're fashionable is because the way the brand represents itself and is very much inclusive.
Mm.
Not just talking about that sustainable environmental stuff they do, but yeah, it's going to pull people in. A really good brand as well. Sorry, I'm just walking myself through Sylvia Park here. It is, I think, probably mispronounce it. It's Ethique or Ethique.
Yep.
It's a Stoke brand. Brilliant. They're very much advertise their way through social media. I've never seen them on telly or anything like that, but
Mhm.
they're all about sustainability and environmentally friendly. They're vegan. Yeah, people go to that because if they use their product, they think they're making a difference because
Mm.
they, from everything they see, they are making a difference. So yeah, I think they're the few brands that pop to my head straight away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting you say Doc Martens because I think back to when I went to London to live 20 something years ago, and they were cool then, right? For our age. So that's obviously a brand that has just moved with the times. And I
yeah,
would know people my age who would still think Doc Martens are cool. So then, they're doing something right, aren't they, to appeal to multi generations and, yeah, kind of just stay relevant and stay cool
yeah,
regardless of the generation.
yeah, exactly. And it'd be awesome to be a fly on the wall in their meetings or and just to see what they do and how they keep up. Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see. But from the outside looking in and just presuming, I think they are just embracing each generation as they're coming up and listening to them and
Mm.
working with them. And that's why, everyone's always had a thing for Doc Martens, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, what trends do you believe will continue to grow as more Gen Z becomes involved in travel and tourism?
Yeah, I think sort of the trends with how stuff is, I mean, looking at things like TikTok, that's massive. I don't think it's going anywhere. And I'm sure another platform will come in and overtake TikTok, but it'd be pretty similar. But how people use that to advertise their business and the the influencers are massive. That I believe that trend is only gonna improve and increase. If you can invite an influencer in who has 2 million followers, if only 10% of those followers watch that reel and pick up,
Mm.
and only 10% of those out that 10% come in, you still have thousands of people coming to your business.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's free advertising. So I think those sort of trends in how we advertise is definitely going to be way more down the social media way. And I think, yeah, the trends of how the company represents itself in the public, and again, environmental, not getting involved in any sort of xenophobic stuff or having things like that. I think it's also really big too. So I think
Mm.
I think how companies advertise themselves and also present themselves is really important
Mm.
for them.
Gee, I mean, I'm not going to go there, but I'm thinking of some industries who may actually struggle in the future that have
Yeah.
got themselves into a little bit of trouble. Fortunately, that's not the tourism industry, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you can kind of see it happening in some of those more established, larger businesses around the world. What do you do at Weta Unleashed to leverage some of those trends to create memorable and relevant experiences for the younger visitors that you get?
Yeah, great question. I think we're leveraging it a lot with our advertising, using a lot
Mhm,
more social media. We have someone who's amazing called Sylvia Richards, who is sort of leading the way with that for us.
mhm,
She's a great leader in the way that she talks with the crew to get the ideas and how she does the social media posts.
mhm,
And it's insane to watch it pop off. But when for crew coming in and using these trends to deliver a memorable experience, it's I think it's somehow showcasing how you're you're keeping up to date and you're modernizing in your experience. Whether that be sort of signs saying you're supporting this, or if you're having a Gen Z tour guide take them through who has different pronouns or shows off their tattoos, I think that will make it memorable.
Mm,
But actually, the product you deliver, I'm not sure actually. If you
mm.
can crack that question, I think you'd be a very wealthy person.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's definitely one to think a lot harder
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one question I had on your social media, and I know it's not your role, but I
Yeah.
guess you allow people to take videos and photos of the experience, but then we talked right up front about it's quite nice going in there not knowing what to expect. So how do you balance that with your social media, that you kind of want to give people a taste and get them enthusiastic and excited, but
Yeah,
not show them the whole tour?
it's really difficult, and you kind of share. It sounds, I suppose, that's not very appropriate. Share a bit of ankle, sort of tease them without sharing everything. Yeah, we do allow photos, we do allow videos, we don't allow streaming of the full tour because we don't obviously want that to be released. But I think and when you take a photo or a video, it's just a split second of what the experience is.
Mm,
And I'm such a firm believer, it doesn't matter what experiencing you're offering. The stuff inside the space it sounds pretty awful, but it's nothing. It's pointless. It has no meaning. It's just stuff.
yeah.
It's the tour guide, it's the host that really brings it to life and gives it meaning and purpose. So
Mm,
they're the bit you're trying to hide because they're the one who deliver the product and make that meaningless stuff so amazing. So I think, yeah, again, our tour guides are Gen Z, so
yeah.
it's sort of teasing them a bit with what they're gonna see and let them figure out what it is.
Yeah.
And then once you've got the hook in them, actually bringing them in and blowing them away. I think a big part of it is under promise and over deliver on what you
Yeah.
have to offer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Brooke in your team because she was amazing on our tour. She was our tour guide, and you could just see her passion. Like, she got so
Yeah.
excited and straight out said, "I'm here for the guts and the gore." Just loved it. I had such a good time, and she just kept it, yeah, kept us guessing the whole time. And some of us didn't quite know
Amazing.
what was happening around the corner
Yeah.
and didn't know
Yeah.
what to expect. But yeah, it
Oh,
was,
that's brilliant. And I hope Brooke's listening to this because she is excellent. And she's someone who's very much unapologetically herself. Yeah. And she's a supervisor at Weta too. She's been a supervisor for coming up to a year now and she's killing
uh,
it. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, no, she was brilliant. Look, we're running out of time, Will, but I've
Oh,
got
cool.
one
Yeah.
last question for
Fire
you.
away.
Um,
Yeah.
I could sit here and talk all day, but what's one piece of advice that you could give to tourism businesses as they're planning for the future with Gen Z in mind?
Yeah. Oh, just that one piece. Just to have those adult conversations and work with them, not work against them, listen to them, embrace them, and just trial it. If you just have a sit down conversation with your crew and they're coming up with an idea, trial it, see what happens.
Mm,
Just find out. Just be brave enough to give it a go because I think you'll be shocked and pleasantly surprised because they are epic. They are our future, whether you like it or not.
yep.
It's 25% next year. What's it going to be the year after and the year after? And they are eventually, we want them to be in the industry because it's an amazing industry. Let's share it
Mm,
and let's embrace what they bring to it because they're gonna they're gonna take us from being where we are now to being even better. Yeah, they're fantastic. So embrace them, listen to them. That's my
yeah.
main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be scared of it, and you might even learn something.
Yeah, definitely. You'll definitely learn something. Yeah, you'll definitely learn something. That's for sure.
Oh, well, look, at the end of the day, we're all going to retire at some point in our lives, and we need the next generation to take over. We need
Yeah,
that succession plan, and that's what it's all part of, isn't it? It's just, yeah,
yeah, definitely,
no,
definitely.
very cool. Look, Will, thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed our chat and learned a lot about Gen Z today, and I'm sure our listeners will. As someone who works on my own, it is a bit of a foreign concept for me. Well, not
Yep.
too much, actually. I have worked with a lot of younger people through my career. So, yeah, it's great to just have this chat and get the awareness out there. And hopefully, there's a lot of Gen Z people listening into the podcast. And if
Oh,
there is,
okay.
they can feel free to send us some more tips and ideas if they wish.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you very much for having me on, Michelle. It's been an absolute privilege. I'm very very thankful. Thank you.
You're very
Yeah,
welcome, and all the best. Have a great summer.
yeah, likewise. Cheers, and you.
Ka kite.
Kai kite.